Jared Kushner is 36 today. Yesterday, his father-in-law gave the multimillionaire an early birthday present when he appointed him as a senior White House advisor, a reward perhaps for his tireless efforts to get Trump elected. Kushner is a property developer and a newspaper owner. It's not yet clear whether he'll have to divest himself of all his interests to take up the apparently unpaid, hugely influential role. What's even less clear is Jared Kushner's politics. Here's our diplomatic editor, Mark Urban.
Son of a New Jersey property baron, Jared Kushner had a privileged upbringing. His path from Harvard to the family firm looked like plain sailing until 2005, when his father, Charlie, was convicted of tax evasion and witness tampering.
Well, I was there. It was obviously a crushing blow. Charlie was a well-respected member of his family and his community, and it was a terrible blow to the family. Jared, as the second oldest child, it was hard for him, as it was hard for his sisters and his brother.
The Kushner conviction sprang out of vicious political and family rivalries.
Mr. Kushner engaged in a conspiracy.
And some have claimed that this battle left Jared Kushner with a strong desire for revenge.
There is definitely a psychodrama at play here. A lot of people speculating about Kushner wanting revenge on Chris Christie earlier in this election season. Now, of course, Chris Christie nowhere in the picture when it comes to this Trump administration. Maybe holding out hopes for a role down the line, but definitely not on day one. In these cases, oftentimes there is at least a glimmer or a grain of truth to these stories. We've seen both in Trump and Kushner a desire to get even.
Hungry yet, monsieur? Or do we starve one more day?
Jared Kushner's life, with its turns of fortune, feels a little like a 19th century novel. It's been reported that his favourite book is indeed The Count of Monte Cristo, Dumas' saga of how an unjust imprisonment leads the hero to amass a fortune and spend a lifetime seeking revenge. Certainly, his alliance through marriage with the Trump family has now brought him to the apex of political power.
Jared is a very successful real estate person, but I actually think he likes politics more than he likes real estate, I must tell you. And he's very good at politics. So,
notoriously reluctant to give interviews, Kushner, who's Jewish, took to the pages of a paper he owns, the New York Observer, to defend Trump against a charge of anti-Semitism during the campaign.
Well, one of the people you see in the newsroom behind you is Dana Schwartz, who wrote a story for us, and this kind of shows you what I mean about Jared being a publisher who is not heavy-handed. She wrote a piece questioning why Donald Trump allowed clearly anti-Semitic elements to come support him. And Jared quite forcefully answered that, look, no candidate can possibly be held responsible for every one of his or her millions of supporters, but I know this guy, and there's not an anti-Semitic or racist bone in his body.
When Trump toured the White House, his son-in-law was there too. Kushner was credited with designing a winning campaign on a shoestring, but his knowledge of how Washington actually works is slight.
Perhaps he's a very able person, but we have no track record to judge that by. He doesn't have any experience, and he is coming into this position by networks, by his family network, and so, he has to prove himself, but it's not for naught that there are anti-nepotism laws, because, and it's not just this one relative, there are all these relatives that Trump is putting into power, very close to power, without appropriate Chinese walls. So yes, I think it's a big problem.
If Jared Kushner has a tendency for extremism, it's in the matter of family loyalty, and that's what's made him indispensable to Donald Trump. As for his actual politics, he's exhibited what Henry Kissinger has characterized as a considerable degree of constructive ambiguity.
Jared's a very fair guy, and he listens to a lot of people and is willing to be persuaded, but is ultimately quite decisive. Just as an example, the Observer is, I think, the only paper in the country that endorsed both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in their respective primaries. that not only shows our ideological diversity, but it shows that we pick winners.
But let's not forget the Count of Monte Cristo. After Trump's victory, Chris Christie, the man expected to organise the new administration, but who had gloated when Jared Kushner's father was convicted, was fired.
Is it my turn, Edmund?
It is.
But when it comes to the new White House and the influences on Trump, many pin high hopes on his special advisor, just 35 years old.
Many powerful people in Washington and New York find at least some degree of comfort knowing that Kushner is going to be in Trump's ear, literally in the room oftentimes, before big decisions are made. So much of what Trump said on the campaign trail was so toxic, so frightening to many Americans, and yet Kushner is someone who is soft-spoken, is moderate, is in some ways a progressive, and can round off some of Trump's very hard edges.
In the dwindling days of the Obama presidency, many in Washington are anxious. The president-elect couldn't be more different in style, one reason why they now pin their hopes on those around Trump.
Mark Urban. Carrie